Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning in the case of our West Coast people. This is Jay Cooper, and this is another in a series of webinars brought to you by the Campus Suite Academy. Today's topic is how to use Twitter to improve school communications. Thanks for joining us. Today's presenters will be myself, Jay Cooper. I'm the director of the Campus Suite Academy. I'm also the content strategist for Campus Suite, and we do websites for schools. And then my co-presenter, Steve Williams, is the VP of Marketing and co-founder of Campus Suite. And he is quite tech savvy and has a passion for design. And so he'll be sharing some ways to increase your following and some tools for managing your Twitter as the presentation rolls out. A little background on us. We are Cincinnati based. We're located in Cincinnati, Ohio. We've been in business since 2000. And so for 15 years, we've been helping schools make the most out of their website and web communications in general. And the Campus Suite Academy is part of our mission to share knowledge with educators and to help them stay current and improve outcomes. It's our professional development arm. And we cover all kinds of topics. In the past, we've covered social media, mobile apps, Google apps, and we've got some future topics in the cooker right now. So stay tuned, and hopefully you can make the Campus Suite Academy webinar series part of your ongoing professional development. Again, thanks for tuning in. If you need to contact us, we've got a variety of ways. We've got a website. You can check out our blog, Facebook. We've got it all covered. Obviously, there's our Twitter handle, since you can even tweet about attending this presentation. So feel free to spread the word. It's just some housekeeping items. First off, we will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. However, throughout the course of today's presentation, if you have a question, you can enter it at any time in the chat window as part of the GoToWebinar series. And then also we'll try to get as many questions in as time permits. Obviously, if we can't get to yours in the webinar, we'll be sure to address it individually and follow up with an email. Today's presentation will take about 30 minutes or maybe a little bit longer, but we'll certainly reward you for hanging in. At the end of today's presentation, you'll get a certificate of completion, and we'll actually get that out to you in the next couple of days. And all you have to do is stick around to the end and take a 4-question survey at the end. Also, for participating in today's presentation, you get a free guide, the ultimate guide for Twitter, and that's also available at campussuite.com/Twitter. And we'll repeat this slide at the end of the presentation, and we'll even email you a link along with the certificate. So, and also, this is a question we get quite a bit. Copies of this presentation will be made available in a slide deck to you, so you can save note-taking if you like. And we also will have a video presentation recording of today's presentation as well. All right, let's get started. How to use Twitter to improve school communication. This is on the heels of a recent presentation we put together that was very well attended. We got a lot of feedback on how to build a social media program for your school, and the Twitter kept percolating back to the top. And so Twitter is obviously one of the most popular of the social media these days, and so it can be an important part to help support your communication strategy. And so for those of you who are Twitter newbies, this presentation will help get your school's Twitter program off the ground. For the more experienced, advanced user, we'll be covering some of the best practices and tools to help you get the most out of using Twitter. We've divided today's presentation up into a few chunks. The first is tweeting fundamentals. Second is setting up and optimizing your profile. Third, building a following. It's key. 4 is how to create great tweets. And lastly, we'll review some great tools that will help make it easy for you to manage Twitter at your school. We're going to start off with a little interaction. We've got a survey question to ask you, a poll. Does your school use Twitter? Quick yes or no answer. This one's easy. Promise the next one will take a little bit more thought. But does your school have an official Twitter account? I'm not talking about a personal account that you might have. This would be for the district or the high school. Maybe you as a communications director or a superintendent or a principal might have one that's directly linked as an official Twitter account. Please take a moment to answer. Wow, look at that. It's split right down, almost right down the middle. That's interesting. So 51% do and 49% don't. So maybe for those of you who don't, by the end of today's presentation, you'll have a good idea how to get started. And for those of you who do, maybe you'll pick up some additional tips. Okay, it's going to get a little more challenging here. Rate the success of your school Twitter activity. And of course, for those of you who don't have a Twitter account, you can go ahead and click A. But for those of you who do, I'd like you to do a little introspection and ask yourself, how well are you doing in terms of engaging and sharing on Twitter? So you've got B, poor, C, fair, D, good, and E, you're really happy with what your school's doing with Twitter. And as the results begin to trickle in, the results will be posted shortly right there on your screen. Okay. Looks like of those who do use it, good but underutilized, and otherwise poor. And you've got one, but you think it could use a little help. So for those of you who are just doing a commendable job, you're only 5%. So maybe next time we'll ask you all to help participate and present this information. But for now, looks like we've got a lot of ground to cover. So let's start with some tweeting fundamentals. Why tweet? Well, number one, it's the most popular social media channel with your demographic. It's the students, the younger and more mobile savvy staff and parents who are using this medium. And secondly, it's the popular channel for media, which is important to getting messages spread throughout the network, businesses, organizations, education, and the community. Tweeting is important because it's a way to get up-to-date, live streaming news out there, and so you need to join in that conversation as a school district. It helps you extend your school content. It will align your content with others' content, and that's real critical. It's all about sharing. You'll find through the course of this presentation that the burden of creating all kinds of content doesn't necessarily rest with you. It's as much about sharing and finding and determining what's important, what other people's content is important to help your school communicate. It's a way for you to share ideas. It's a way for you to learn from others as well. And also critical to your school's mission, Twitter can help you establish and reinforce leadership in your community. So who are you engaging? Well, your critical group is internally, your students. They're really the hubs and cogs in the Twitter wheel because they're the ones that are using Twitter for their main source of information and news. Also, younger staff. You'll find that your younger teachers and other staff at your school are the ones that are already depending on Twitter for a source of information and news. Faculty, board members. This group is critical for targeting your engagement. Externally, you've got key influencers that you want to be reaching out to on a regular basis. Media is foremost. They were the first adapters, the early adapters to Twitter. They're the ones that are taking messages and sharing them routinely and regularly on real-time live stream basis. And so it's important that your school connect as quickly and as continually as possible with media outlets. Also, you're trying to engage parents. Certainly the youngest ones are already there with Twitter. And then beyond that, the business and community leaders, that includes faith groups, even senior groups, to start using Twitter to engage these important targets. Just at a higher level, the NSPRA, we were recently asked to present at one of these associations, and if you look at what Twitter is trying to accomplish and social media in general, it really aligns with those specific strategic communications objectives that the NSPRA has identified, with speaking in one clear voice, creating a communicators network, and this is pulled right from their documents, if you will. Building level, localizing and personalizing communications, and collaborating and extending to the public. So really, Twitter fits hand in glove with what you ought to be doing as a school. So who's going to manage it? All right, the school PR director. And speaking from personal experience, I was a former PR director for a large urban school district. What are we doing here? Are we just throwing another instrument for you to start playing? Yeah, I guess in short answer, yes. However, you're already doing a lot of juggling, but we've got some answers for you. And that is, first off, build a team. You can't do this by yourself. And who do you want to get on your team? You want to try to get fellow staffers, teachers, students. Yes, get a student helper. Again, you'll probably learn as much from some of your students about Twitter as you will from us in today's presentation, because they're the ones who are already using this more than anybody. One thing that we've done, and you can do as an organization, we've actually tapped a local college to help us with our own social media initiatives, and she spends a lot of time tweeting herself. Social media jobs, by the way, are among the hottest going, and so there's a lot of young talent out there looking for opportunities, and so don't, as a PR, if you're a communications director, and maybe this is a question we should have asked, but if you're one of these one-man bands out there, or you've got shrinking resources like we all do, try to surround yourself with some help. Okay, consistency is required. That's your prescription for Twitter success, and it's really consistency across these three disciplines, and that's finding and creating content, building a following, and then the all-important responding and interacting. You have to have a contingency for interactivity, or else why be social? All right, let's look at some types of content to share. Just news and events, right? You want to get your news and events out? That's pretty much what you're going to do? No, there's a lot more to it than that. There's many different kinds of content, and this is where so many schools fall down. Is okay, we posted that we're going to have a school play in a couple of weeks, or we posted the results of our basketball game the other night, or we've got an upcoming PTA meeting. No, it's much more than news events. As you go around the horn here on this kinds of content that you can be presenting, there's all kinds of information that you can be sharing with your community. And you can also directly solicit ideas and content by asking for stories and ideas. This is the kind of dialogue that will help with this engagement as well. And in the process, when you have people actually forward you story ideas and other kinds of content, you might find some champions for social media in the process. There's a term that you're going to have to become very familiar with as you embark and improve on your tweeting, is that's curating content. By curating content, we mean you're finding information on the web, you're sorting through it, and you're organizing it around usually a specific theme or topic. And critical to this is relating it back to your school. Okay, curated content can come from just about anywhere. Golly, media, parent resources, journals, news outlets, other schools, your own parents, students, staff, teachers. Content can come from anywhere. Okay, so as you curate this content, the key is relating it to your school, connecting it to your school. Okay, and so another key to this too is to make sure you fully attribute that content, and this is critical because you're not only being forthright on where you're getting the info and your sources, but you're also creating following opportunities. People like to see their ideas being shared, and so they in turn will reciprocate. And so that's part of your goal here is to increase that kind of engagement. This is something I think if there's any one takeaway from the content section of today's presentation is this rule of thirds, and this relates back to those variety of content sources that on a previous slide. As you determine how content relates to your school, you can really break it down into three types of content. One, you've got school news and events, and that's everything from school delays and cancellations to awards and scores and upcoming events. There's tons of news and events. That's 1/3 of your content. You're promoting the school per se. The next chunk is ideas. Okay, and this is where you're sharing ideas. It can again be parent resources. It can be leaders from your community. It can be quotes from our president or your governor, whatever it might be. It's ideas. Okay, it's ideas, and you want to share those. And again, attach your school to that content, either directly or indirectly. And the third kinds of content you should be using in your school tweeting is human interest, and that's I call that the personal or the warm and fuzzy stuff. You get a cool picture from a teacher student interaction or it's the warm fuzzy stuff, and that's the kind of content people love. I mean, I look at my own personal Facebook timeline and all this stuff that people are posting on that, for example, and so much of it is just that human interest stuff. So anything you can do and use this rule of thirds to connect it to your school, that helps build value for your school. And of course, we're going to put a plug in here for having a good communication hub because I feel personally, and we agree at Campus Suite, that a lot of the content that you can be drawing from, particularly on the news and events and ideas, can be actually pulled from a good school website that's got fresh, current content. So that website still is at the core of all your communications. Okay, now I'm going to ask my colleague Steve Williams to actually get you started on how to set up and optimize your school profile. And Steve, again, is our co-founder of Campus Suite, VP, and he has a real passion for design and tech savvy, and he's always on the lookout and using some of these tools that he's going to be sharing with you.
Thanks, Jay. I'll be reviewing some of the ways to set up your Twitter account initially. We'll talk about how to, make your actual profile look very professional. First, we're going to take a look at a basic setup, and I recommend using this setup if you're just getting started or if you're underutilizing your current Twitter. This entails creating a main Twitter account for the district and schools using hashtags to segment the tweets related to the school. So instead of having a dedicated Twitter account for each school, you can utilize hashtags. You also establish what we like to call a hashtag theme. And basically, you're going to cover various aspects of the school topics. For example, if you had a important levy issue that you wanted to share stories of why you should vote yes for that levy, you may create a hashtag called support issue 2 or whatever that may be. The next setup is dedicated for a school that's a little more advanced, school district, and basically you'll set up a district Twitter account, and you can also set up the subsets such as the schools and departments. And what you'll find is you may have a couple schools where a principal or somebody actually created a Twitter account. They may be pretty active, but maybe lacking in other schools. That's a hard nut to crack in terms of getting users to embrace Twitter. However, if you can leverage that, you can set up a main account along with the actual individual accounts. Another nice feature of Twitter is called public list. And this is where you can create a list where you add people you follow to a list and you can make that public. This could be a nice way to actually segment streams for your Twitter accounts. In fact, there is a very prominent school district here in our area in Cincinnati that utilizes a public stream or a public list for their primary account. So they do not even have a main Twitter profile for the district. It's basically a stream which they created of all the teachers and departments and organizations, athletic clubs, and they utilize that as their main Twitter account. So if you go to a website and click Twitter, it's actually a public list. Last, everybody's going to utilize a common hashtag themes, and this is going to help you collaborate and generate activity. So if we take a look at a public list, they are real easy to set up. And basically you log into Twitter and you will see that option of generate lists. You can create as many lists as you wish. They can be public or private. So I'm going to be talking a little more about curating content in terms of collecting stuff to retweet. And that's where you may set up a private list, but you can set up a list, give it a description, and they will be available on your public profile as well. When we talk about your Twitter profile itself, do the best you can with what you have. We understand not everybody has access to professional photography, all of that stuff, but the goal here is to look authentic, and I'm going to be covering a couple key areas that are important. The first is the description, and this is very important because people are scanning through Twitter, emails. This gives you opportunity to connect with that potential follower. So you really have to tell them what is in it for them. Are you sharing resourceful information? Are you talking about the school community? Is this important for alerts? Stay current with the individual school district and schools. So you want to keep that short, sweet, and concise. It only lets you use 140 characters anyways, but you really want to make that enticing and let them know why to follow you. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the logo. And a lot of people make mistakes of squeezing in copy and stuff, and trying to put too much in the actual logo. The truth is your name will always be next to the actual icon logo that's available for your Twitter profile, so there is no need to put your name in there. Secondly, I like to use a symbol or something very clean and nice that's going to reproduce well when it's very small. A couple other nice things to do to your Twitter profile is adjust your color theme. That can be done in the settings. So you can match the colors of all the links and the buttons to your brand. You can also change up the header image, and I like to recommend that the header image is timely. Imagine if it's spring or graduation time, you can actually put some nice photos in the header that reflect that. So next thing we're going to talk about is building a following. And there is no easy way to build a following. You have to become part of the community, and that entails engaging users, responding, retweeting, favoriting, and following. So it's not as easy as putting icons on your website or included in the emails that get sent out to the parents. You really have to become part of the community. First, it starts with following others. And I'm not talking about just individuals, parents, or teachers that are directly related to your school, but it's also talking about the local community, news organizations, local and national, charities, foundations, a lot of aspects of your community that you can share ideas and gain support. As Jay mentioned before, how are you going to curate the content? That is a very good question, and we're going to be covering some tactics that can help you build a funnel and gather the content you need. The first thing I'm going to recommend is subscribing to RSS feeds. And if you're not familiar with RSS, what that represents, it represents real simple syndication. So if you go to a blog where it's very typical for school websites or news websites to have a little icon for RSS feed, that basically allows that content to be shared in what's called RSS readers. I'm going to be covering this a little later when we talk about tools, but basically it pulls all of that content in a simple unified view. So if I log into my Feedly account, which is RSS reader, which I do daily in the morning, I can see all of the updates from all the blogs that I subscribe to. It's very easy. This will help you sort through content that's being generated that you can share. Imagine if there's a new study on how video games affect ADD for children. That would be a great post to share with parents. The next type of content curation is actually seeing tweets that are generated. And let's say you follow 500 people. Chances are, a small percentage of those people you follow are really going to be sharing good content. Well, this will allow you to create a list that you can sort through to identify some great stuff being shared of the thought leaders and such. And keep in mind, Twitter is a great resource for professional development, whether it's and that's why teachers like to share information along with education leaders. Perhaps your superintendent has a Twitter account. Chances are they're doing it to also share knowledge and education expertise. So the goal here is to feed your tweet engine. And notice how I have a Twitter feeds and RSS feeds. I just discussed that with you. But also keep in mind you can gather submissions like Jay shared earlier where you have a form on your website, and also your school communications. And basically you can be putting together a plan of events and other announcements that you're going to be sharing through different public relations and also news articles and such. So you're going to combine all that together, and this is going to give you the ability to actively post on Twitter. Next, we'll talk about hashtags. This is an opportunity to be creative as well, but the benefit of a hashtag is it has the ability to extend your reach and generate activity. Imagine if you were to generate activity with the students over some type of popular academic achievement that the individual school was awarded. So it's a great way to gain followers as well. When we talk about publishing frequency, it's very important. This is the consistency, as Jay discussed earlier. And the lifespan of a tweet is like 8 minutes. So with all the hard work you create to write these tweets and do all that stuff, it's important that, one, you're going to publish it frequently on a daily basis, but secondly, you will retweet the same post multiple times. So if we take a look at a certain type of tweet you want to push out to Twitter, and it's a very important, we'll call it evergreen content. What that means is it has a lifespan to it. You could actually tweet it a year from now if you wish. Here at Campus Suite, we tweet a lot of our content up to 10 times. We have it on a schedule, and we use tools that allow, streamline how this is conducted. But this is very important because you put all efforts in creating this content. The lifespan's 8 minutes, and also people log in at different times. So it's going to be important that you cover different days of the week along with different times. And here's a quick example, and notice how Twitter, we're going to publish it much more often than Facebook and Google+. Twitter is very active compared to Facebook and Google+. And so you're not going to be breaking any rules if you schedule something multiple times. And last, promote it. As I mentioned before, this is one of the smaller factors, but obviously you want to have a prominent space on your website, put up posters, make sure to include follow links and such on all the emails that get generated to the parents and the community. So I'm going to turn it loose to Jay, and he's going to be talking about creating some great tweets.
Thanks, Steve. The important thing to keep in mind is that not only do you need a schedule, you need the time. You need the time to create these tweets, and if the fact is that it does take a lot of time to create, find, and post content, whether you're writing it yourself or curating it. See the one-man band concept, right? But the most time-consuming aspect of social media is really finding the right content. And you can never have too much content, but you really don't have to create it yourself, okay? So in addition to a good mix of content, that rule of thirds, it's also good to use a good mix of post types. And we're going to show you some of those right now. There's best practices that have been put together by one of our mentors, and that's the HubSpot Inbound Marketing Group. Is the types of tweets. They've broken it down into 8, and we're going to review just a few today. But the complete list is going to be available in the download the ebook, and you can use that to drill down a little deeper. But here's an example of the basic shared content tweet, and the components are simply the title of the tweet. We've got the link to the article, and then the author. Another common type of tweet is the facts and stats, and everybody loves facts and stats, right? And lists. Here's a case: over 98% of your school students are above state average in reading. And take them to that link, and then throw in a reason why they should be voting for the upcoming levy. I love facts and stats, and those draw me in. I think that top 10 list, put together the top 5 reasons why your school is great, that type of thing. So facts and stats, just another type of tweet type. The question, it's a great way to engage. Just pose a question. How much time do you spend with your child reviewing homework? And again, make sure you include an appropriate link. And here, in this case, we've got 2 hashtags, which is the best practice. You want to always include hashtags in your tweets to improve your chances of engagement. In fact, will drive your engagement up if you include hashtags. So make sure you do that. And then the retweet, a very common type of tweet. It's really the workhorse of Twitter, and that's where you're taking somebody else's tweet, and then turning it around and retweeting it out. And the key here is to always comment. Okay, here's a case where you might have read something, you read an article, and you just want to add on, hey, I wonder if this maybe our school's ready for a mobile app or whatever it might be, and then you just forward that on. What that retweeting does by adding that comment, it personalizes and connects that content back to your school. In addition, there's some other tweet types. You've got the problem solution, you've got the support or endorsement, quotes, and advice. On the advice one, consider, for example, like a checklist, like for the perfect homework space. Do you have the good homework space at home? Is it comfortable? A good chair? Is it lighting? That type of thing. Just ask, just give them some advice. Another one might be, see this URL for mobile apps that can block your teen from texting behind the wheel. So don't be afraid to offer up advice as a way to get content out. All right, let's talk about adding visuals. If you really want to get people to pay attention to your tweets, be certain you're making the most of using pictures. Including images improves the click rate. It's not only important to include them, but to make sure that they're sized and formatted correctly. So, it's easy to add a photo these days with the interface on the tweet dashboard. An in-stream photo preview, like the one indicated in the on the slide here. Notice it's out of focus, but I'm all right with that. Like Steve was saying before, authentic imagery, to me that shows, man, there's the superintendent. He's surrounded by people having a good time. Looks like there's some action going on, and that's okay if that kind of stuff is a little bit out of focus. It's real authentic. So, but including an in-stream photo preview really boosts the chances of people clicking on. In addition, tweeting multiple images at once is possible. That's where you can have a collage effect or a storyboard effect. It enables you to pick up to 4 photos at once. And then tag your photos whenever possible. And Twitter enables you to tag up to 10 people. And that's simply what you're doing is attaching their name. If they have a Twitter account, attaching their name to that photo, then you'll select it and they're automatically tagged. Okay, now for some tools to make it easy to help you manage your Twitter. Steve?
All right, we're going to be talking about some tools that make it a little bit easier, and there are several different tools out there that's going to help support the different stages of the process Jay was conveying. Some of them offer free accounts, or you can pay a minimal fee monthly, $10-20 for additional features, and you may justify if they're going to save you a lot of time. So we're going to first talk about finding content, tools that are going to streamline curating content and making it a little more easier so you're not spending 2 hours a day doing so. Then we're going to talk about scheduling posts. And one of the things I notice in social media publishing with schools we talk to every day, they are logging into the individual accounts and having to publish. And there are a lot of tools out there that's going to make that much easier. And I'm going to be happy to share that. Then we're going to talk about listening and responding. And this is a very sensitive area because we get a lot of people asking about how to respond to negative comments. We're actually going to have another webinar specifically on that. It's such a hot topic. So first, talking about finding content, I mentioned Feedly earlier. I utilize Feedly. I read all my blog articles. I spend about 10-15 minutes a day. But basically, you will copy and paste URLs from the websites you like and add them to Feedly. Feedly is free, and it's going to give you the ability to quickly scan through all the updates of content. This is great for professional development, even outside of trying to curate content for social media. As a school professional and a communicator and PR specialist, this is a great way to stay connected to the latest trends. Next is Google Alerts. This is free. A lot of people are familiar with this, but basically you're going to set up key terms. You could add your individual schools, your school district, your superintendent, individuals, and this will send you an email notification anytime content is indexed with those keywords. So let's imagine that a local newspaper read article and featured on their website about the superintendent. As soon as that is indexed in Google, which can be a couple of days after it's released, you will receive a notification. So this gives you great stuff to share as well when the school is written up. Next thing we're going to talk about is scheduling. So there are several systems out there you can subscribe to. HootSuite is the most popular, and it's one of the more powerful tools. However, there are a couple other tools I like for certain things. With Hootsuite, it provides the ability to set up a team of people to help contribute to the publishing, and you can also manage comments that are coming in. So it provides a nice little dashboard that you can actually add a post, it'll automatically shorten the links for you, and you can send it to multiple profiles. However, I'm not a big fan of writing one post that's going to be pushed to all the individual profiles because, for example, Twitter, you can take advantage of hashtags and stuff that's proprietary or specific to Twitter. So I really like to put a lot into how the content is written in terms of the post. And Jay went over some how to write great tweets. And one of the things he didn't mention, which I just want to bring up, is when you're retweeting people, make sure to find out who they are and specify them. So if you come to a great article on the web and you share that, make sure to find out who wrote that article, their Twitter profile, and mention it. And basically, they receive a notification and they're likely to follow you. So another nice feature of Hootsuite is it'll provide you the ability to manage private messages. And this is really nice because it's going to leave a paper trail. And from a liability perspective, you can manage and oversee the activity that's happening in the profiles that you have set up in Hootsuite. We also recommend having a contingency plan in place. So if you're going to utilize Twitter to the fullest, make sure you have a plan in place for negative activity that may arise. And it could be as simple as, canned responses of how to handle certain things. The next thing I want to talk about is Chrome extensions. Basically, in Chrome, you have a little toolbar here, and you can add these extensions to the browser, and they basically extend the functionality of that browser. They're really nice. So with Hootsuite and some of these other services I'm going to be discussing, they provide a little extension you can add. So imagine if I landed on a page I wanted to share in Twitter. I can click that little button of that owl in the actual toolbar, and a window will pop up. And this gives you the ability to add your tweet information, and you can also schedule to multiple profiles if you wish. Hootsuite also has a nice feature for auto schedule where it will automatically schedule that post for the most optimal time that your followers are on Twitter. The next social media scheduling software is Buffer. Buffer is a little more modern and lightweight, and I like it a little better than Hootsuite. However, it does not manage the private comments. And the thing I like about Buffer is it makes it easy to reschedule the same tweet multiple times, whereas Hootsuite makes it a little more difficult. And basically, you're going to add the content and schedule it. And if I rolled over this tweet, a little button appears that says rebuffer, so you can click and it basically gives you an opportunity to reschedule that at a different time. As I mentioned, we schedule our stuff 8 to 10 times. We work really hard on a lot of content that's going to gain a lot of mileage on social media. The next software I'd like to talk about is Mention. And Mention will allow you to monitor and listen to keywords you set up for social media. Where I mentioned Google Alerts is going to provide you alerts when somebody creates a blog post or a news page with your keywords. Mention will do the same, with the exception it's dedicated for social media. Google Alerts will not notify you if your school is mentioned in Facebook, whereas Mention will. It covers like Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and other areas. So basically, you're going to set up, keyword terms, and you'll receive notifications. I don't want people considering this a negative to listen to all the negative comments, but also all of the positive. And when there is positive comments on your school district, schools, people, whoever that may be, it's very important to respond and send them a message of appreciation. And that's all part of becoming a community with Twitter. And all of these software tools I'm sharing with you, they have mobile apps which make it real nice as well. Last, I want to talk about mentioning how you can respond. As I mentioned before, is having a plan in place for contingency. Imagine if somebody said something really negative and it's gaining traction. Well, mention gives you the ability to assign different people. So you receive an email alert. You can basically say, John, handle this. So it has somewhat of like a task workflow built in. Last thing I want to mention is PicMonkey, and there's also Pixlr. And basically, they are free online tools like help you create images. We understand not everybody can afford Photoshop. It's probably a few $100s, whereas there's a lot of free services like PicMonkey, which are perfect for generating visuals for like Twitter and such.
Okay, Steve, I think that we've got time for some questions now. That pretty much wraps up the stock portion of the presentation today. And we've got several that are in the queue here. I just wanted to take a moment and look at some of these. Well, this one here from Morgan says, how much time per week should we be spending on social media? How much time per week should we be spending on social media?
Well, that's a good question. It's, first of all, it's going to be dependent on how big your school or district is. Obviously, if you're a big school district with 40 schools, it may merit having somebody dedicated to that position. However, if you're more in line with the average school district, 5 to 8 schools, I would recommend 15 minutes a day. And 10 minutes curating content, 5 minutes writing. And once you get in front of this stuff with some nice tools, it's going to be easier to get, to schedule this stuff. For example, you may have this week already scheduled.
Yeah, and it all depends on your resources. Again, do not discount this notion of finding an intern and having that person learn the intricacies of your school district and apply some of these tools and some of their own Twitter expertise to a couple hours each week. And who knows, you could start an aggressive Twitter campaign that way. Here's another one this is from Joe. What age group does Twitter tend to attract most?
Great question. Is interesting fact. 26% of all teachers have a Twitter account, whereas 16% of all adults have a Twitter account. That 16% is going to primarily be between probably the 15 years old and 22 years old age group. However, the point here is how you can extend your reach and share information. I'll use a quick example is a lot of content that may be shared on Facebook may be generated from Twitter because of its reach and how it's a dedicated news stream. People utilize it to share knowledge. Facebook, you're not really sharing knowledge, but there's a lot of professional development, education, thought leaders, all of that stuff that gravitate to Twitter for knowledge and also building that, being part of that community. So it is younger, but that's also important if you have a high school. All of the teenagers are flocking from Facebook because their parents all got to have an account now, and it's not so cool. So teenagers are very active with Twitter.
And Facebook is still growing in monthly usage by the adult population too. And as Steve said, it all kind of interrelates. It's a social media network, and one channel can springboard to another. Here's one from Carolyn, excuse me. How do you communicate using the various hashtags? That's a very good question.
Well, I think that's going to be dependent on other communication initiatives you may have set and working on with your school. But it gives you opportunity to be creative, and there is no rule on creating a hashtag. It could be from anything from your sports team. It could be a PTO. It could be anything related to your community, the school pride, academic achievers, any of that. So when you're developing them, the hashtags, feel free to really brainstorm and create as many as you want. And also, you can create them on the fly. You can invent one based on a topic that popped up that you had not thought about when you were setting up Twitter.
Yeah, it's important to note too that that information will also be contained. Answers to these and some other questions will be contained in the ebook download that will be made available to you at the end of the presentation. And then also, Caroline, many businesses are using hashtags as an ongoing way to link to their customers as an ongoing customer service. All right, we got time for one more, and we've got. Do you actually publish the exact same tweet multiple times, or do you change it up but on the same topic?
That's really up to you and how important the content is. We're trying not to get too sophisticated with our webinar today, whereas tweeting you could start measuring the analytics and success, do A/B testing, all that stuff. But the goal here is to write one good tweet. It's not necessarily going to make it successful if you have 5 variations of it. So my point is focus on just writing a good tweet and being very concise, because keep in mind this stuff is splattered on a timeline of where people's heads spin, and you don't have to use all 140 characters. Shorter the better, and to the point, and just think of it, what would you click if you were scanning through this timeline? Make it very effective.
Yeah, and another, for example, our webinar today we had one tweet. Actually, we had a couple of different tweets regarding today's, but we used the same ones over and over and over. As Steve said, the lifespan of these tweets is minutes in most cases, and so it really doesn't hurt to use the same one over and over. And that's really about all we have time for. So let's we promise that we try to get you out of here.
We will be, for those of you that ask questions, we will follow up with you individually via email to do our best to answer them. So if you have a question, feel free to add it.
Okay, as promised, you're going to get your free guide, and so you can write this down at www.campussuite.com, 2 S's, you got campus and suite, .com/Twitter, and there's a download form there for you to fill out. And again, also copies of this presentation and a video will be available after we'll post the video probably by tomorrow, and the slide deck as well will be made available. In order to get your certificate of completion, I got one more thing for you to do. We've got 4 quick questions for you to answer. That survey will pop up on your screen as soon as I say goodbye, and it will be a personalized certificate of completion that will get out to you in the next couple of days. And reminder that we do have some upcoming webinars planned. How to plan for DDoS attacks. That's basically security attacks at your school. And then mastering Facebook for your school, another hot topic that will be coming your way via the Campus Suite Academy webinar series. And finally, we'd like to encourage you to follow us. Some of you already have throughout the course of today's presentation. Thank you. We will be certain to follow you back. We can be found at Campus Suite CMS. And again, thanks for attending. Check your inbox soon for your certificate of completion. Complete the survey. And so long, everybody.